Welcome to the Pretty Deadly podcast. My name is Susie Collett. I'm a violent crime survivor, a martial artist, and I'm the founder of Pretty Deadly Self Defense.
And I'm Humay, a fitness professional and certified pretty deadly trainer living in Islamabad.
We're exploring the kinds of violence women around the world face, the different ways we defend ourselves on a daily basis, and of course, sharing our self defense tips and techniques as we go.
If there's anything you would like us to explore, send us your questions and comments to hi@teamprettydeadly.com. We'll put the link in the show notes.
So, ever since you and I started working together, I noticed that you're really funny. And even in the manual, like there's so much humor involved in the names of the actions that we do, the strikes that we do. There's always humor in there. And I've done stand-up comedy in the past, and I couldn't help but notice that, there are commonalities between self-defense and um, comedy. So have you felt the same?
Well, I have never done stand-up comedy. So
Okay.
from that perspective, I
Funny
can't really
that you make
say,
jokes.
but so you can tell me what you've experienced. But I have experienced that similarity in something we talked about in the last episode regarding no, and in improv exercises where when people say yes, it gives you something to build on. But when you say no, it shuts down the game, and that's kind of like a mirror of improv in that sense, because we want to shut down a game in self-defense, right?
Yeah.
With the word no, we don't want to keep saying yes. But for me, that would kind of be the largest context, or the closest context that I know. But I'd like to hear what similarities you found, because you have more direct experience.
Yeah. So, what I've noticed is that, if I'm in a situation with either my friends or family and there's some tension building up and brewing, if I crack a joke or somebody else does, then the tension is de-escalated and people just break into laughter and that relaxes them. So that is a form of self-defense in a way that it doesn't, like, it prevents potential violence from taking place.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think what it sounds to me like you're talking about, which is where I see a big similarity, is disruption. So comedy is disruptive, and it's supposed to be disruptive. You're led along a joke, right? And you're going along to the punchline. The punchline is going to come, but that punchline is actually disrupting a rhythm
Yeah.
of the story. That's partly what makes it funny.
Yeah.
And granted, if we listen to comedy and we listen to a lot of jokes, we already know that this is coming and we're prepared for it. Even our physical bodies will prepare for it. But
Yeah.
it's still, if it's a really good joke, it still surprises us. It's still disruptive in kind of like the hypnosis that we've fallen into in the story, in the lead up to the joke. And in the way that you're speaking about it, I feel it does the same thing. So for me, self-defense, and I think in general, my belief about self-defense is that it's not preventative. Self-defense doesn't prevent violence. It doesn't protect you from violence. It disrupts violence as it's happening.
Yeah, that's the commonality.
Right.
Yeah, with building a joke, you have to create false tension first. Like, um, I fell in front of a bus. That is something that would make the audience on the edge of their seats, and then you can, just joke about whatever, deliver the punchline, and people will be relaxed. Another thing I was reading was that a lot of comedians, like 80% of them, come from households where there were very tense situations. So they developed their sense of humor as a defense mechanism to, relax themselves and their family members. Uh, we know that humor, laughing is good for health, it relaxes people. So I think it is a powerful tool to put people's defenses at bay.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's a great diffuser, and certainly comedy can be used as self-defense. We, we say, as you know, in Pretty Deadly, that the only real rule to self-defense is that whatever comes out of your body is
Yeah.
self-defense. But that's not quite how we say it. We say the only real rule is if you live to tell about it, you've defended yourself 100% successfully. But that can mean, telling a joke at a weird time.
Yeah.
It's whatever is disruptive and whatever can diffuse or de-escalate a situation. When I am in a I don't want to say a scared state, but sort of in a like really high tension emergency state, I'll crack a lot of jokes.
Okay.
But it's always a really specific situation. So, for example, we talked about this in an earlier episode, I think. I hope, otherwise this is going to be a new topic for the future. Where I was once roofied, or somebody put something in my drink, and I collapsed in a club. Luckily, I was with my brother, who was there to help care for me. But because we didn't understand what had happened, we decided the smartest thing to do would be to go to the hospital. We were all upset and scared because I'm not somebody who normally faints. That's just not a part of my physiological being. So we were scared and we were confused. We were with one other friend, and I cracked jokes all the way to the emergency room.
Oh,
Because
really?
that's what I do when I'm in that state. Yeah.
Wow.
But I won't do that
I
in
wonder
other
how
fear
they
situations.
reacted. Like, did they laugh or?
They were kind of reacting like, what is, like, I think they kind of thought I was delirious because I was cracking all these jokes instead of being scared.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they were very tense and nervous, my brother and our other friend.
And was that helping you like calm your nerves?
It must have been, because I don't think it wasn't a conscious choice. I just did it.
Yeah. I mean, finding humor in such a situation is so easy. Like if I were in that situation, I'd feel like I'm in a sitcom or something, even though it's
Mm-hmm.
really dark and scary. But
Mm-hmm.
um, it is also kind of funny and unusual that you went to a club to have fun and now you're like lying on a stretcher
Mm-hmm.
next to your brother and friend and being escorted.
Mm-hmm.
So that could make like dark comedy.
Yeah, well, I think there's that too. I mean, it's also, are you someone who sees humor in everything? And I think like with Pretty Deadly, you started out saying that, there's humor in the manual and in the names of the techniques. And part of that I mean, all of that was done on purpose. But part of the reasoning behind that is because
To put people.
traditional self-defense is motivated by fear, and it's scary, and everything's like, if somebody chokes you and then tries to, it's and gouge their eyes out, and all this
Yeah,
language that's really fear motivated and combat motivated, which in one sense is appropriate, but in another sense it can be a turnoff, because it kind of, that language itself only evokes more fear.
yeah,
So the reason all that humor is there is because, you learn just as much laughing as you do crying,
yeah,
but you're more likely to remember things that you're laughing about, and they make you feel good, and then you have a positive association with self-defense instead of a
yeah,
negative association. Why not laugh?
exactly.
There's because there's also an aspect of it where, once you start to kind of see how things work, in the sense of people who like to use social norms as a door into, past your defenses. Once you understand how that works and you feel confident in trusting your body and how you're going to respond, it can be amusing. Like, oh, this guy's going to come over here and try this thing. Let's see how far he gets. And he thinks he's perfectly safe. He thinks that I'm, especially for me as this middle-aged woman, who's pretty chunky right now as well. So I look like really, really not harmless to anybody. They don't know what I know, and I find that really amusing.
Yeah. I mean, I just think it's brilliant how you added humor to this course because anyone who does come to learn, they are naturally afraid and they're thinking, what if I get hurt? What if I, you know, start bleeding or something? And they're also triggered because they remember all the threatening situations of their life. So adding humor is like such a smart decision there, and it actually works. People who have come to our workshops and to our events, whenever we reminisce about the events, they just laugh. They're like, we had such a fun time, such a great time.
Right.
And because of this comedy element there.
Yeah. That's also a bit of a martial arts element, in the way that I've studied, in the way that I understand martial arts. There are some martial artists who are super serious all the time, forever, for the rest of their lives. I'm not in that camp. And they think everybody has to take it seriously. The grandmaster of my martial art, Masaki Hatsumi, or Masaki, whichever way that goes in Japanese. I was just watching some training videos of him yesterday, actually, while I was reviewing some material for some stuff that I'm doing in my martial arts practice. And, he's in his 80s in Japan, throwing around all these guys. He's dyed his hair bright purple and it's sticking out in all different directions. He's wearing this goofy t-shirt. He's smiling and really relaxed, and he's having a great time. This is the grandmaster of ninjutsu
Oh
for the
wow, I
entire world,
love
you
this
know.
guy's image.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, so he's not serious. He's not taking himself seriously.
Yeah.
Another friend of a martial arts friend of mine, his teacher is a guy named it's really hard for me to pronounce his name, Lo, and then I always forget his last name. Taiwanese guy who teaches Bagua.
Hello, that rhymes with Po,
It
who is
does.
the Kung Fu Panda.
That's true. He is not the Kung Fu Panda, though. I think we just kind of you just proved the point.
Yeah.
Lo also teaches he says while you're training with him, he smile, smile. You should be smiling.
Yeah.
He says that not only so that you stay light in your movement and fluid in your movement, because when you're relaxed, you're fluid. When you're too serious and you're tense, you
Yeah.
actually all your muscles are tense and your joints are tense.
And
It's
you
hard
can't
to move that way. Right. But also, when you smile, you've loosened up your hips because
yeah.
there's a direct connection between your jaw, the tension in your jaw, and the tension in your hips.
So
So
all connected.
yeah, it's all connected. Yeah, humor and comedy are great defense mechanisms, and they're great diffusers of tension. As you say, that you build the tension in a joke, and then you deliver the punchline, which breaks the tension. It disrupts. Right.
Yeah.
So it's that, and again, if we think about it, when we're listening to jokes and we're listening to a joke get set up, our bodies tense up too. It tenses in anticipation, waiting for this thing coming.
Yeah.
But so you're absolutely right. There's a real correlation, not only, I think, in the function of comedy as a disruption of that tension, but also in our bodies.
Yeah. I mean, my mentor who taught us comedy said that you're not just delivering your sense of humor, but you're also delivering your energy. So whatever you're feeling, you have to feel it. Whatever you're saying, you have to feel it viscerally, because then the audience will feel that.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had shows where I was totally in my element and I saw how that influenced people more. And I've also done bad shows where I was just very like in a cognitive space. I wasn't feeling it, but those jokes didn't land
Right.
because the audience could pick up, on my energies.
That's also really similar to self-defense, in the sense of I know that when I walk down the street, if I'm in a really, really bad mood, everyone else will feel it.
Yeah.
You can clear a path ahead of you if you want. Like, if you're, especially, so when we're working with women about street harassment, one of the things that comes up a lot is rage. What do you do with the rage? And that rage is not necessarily the same as that deep feminist rage or feminine rage that we might have, which also is there and needs to be addressed. But we're talking more about that rage that comes specifically from street harassment, from the fact that somebody brushes against you, touches, grabs, says something, and then they disappear. So there's nothing you can do about it. So that rage comes from a frustration. What do you do with all that? Because we end up walking around with it for the rest of the day, like, oh, this guy did this. or somebody did this. And one of the things that we teach when we're working with women in the specific context is take that frustration and that rage and do a test. See if you can clear a path in front of you with it. So
Yeah.
direct it in front of you like a beam and just play with it and see what happens. You have
I've
that
seen
rage,
that
you don't know
happen.
where else to put it. So put it in this exercise and just find out what you can do with it. I like to clear a path because it's harmless. It doesn't hurt anybody. And it's just also
Like
interesting to
very
see
interesting
how,
exercise.
yeah, it's a
I mean,
great
I've seen that in movies. I wish we could do it here, but in Islamabad, it's not that densely populated. Like you don't see a lot of crowds moving like that. But I can try. There are certain markets actually. Yeah, I hope it works in Pakistan.
Well, let me know.
People just seem to walk into each other without really caring. So yeah.
Well, let me know.
You're listening to the Pretty Deadly Self-Defense podcast, hosted on Acast and available on iTunes, Spotify, Audible, and our website at prettydeadlyselfdefense.com, and wherever you get your favorite pods.